tossers have thrown it out the door with their behaviour this week. They should be ashamed of themselves. They should absolutely look at themselves in the mirror and wonder what the have they been doing. They're hissing at us and calling us cheats in the Lord's long room, and they have the gall to talk to us about the spirit of cricket. Absolute bullshit.
There's a big appeal that's hit him on the pad. He's out. Lions gone. New South Wales are 9 down. Onto Sydney Road, and it's hit a car. Oh, I think it's hit a car. What a way to bring up your 50.
All you want is to leave it all behind. Now there is a simple remedy to stay fit for all eternity.
Well, apparently you can't win them all. Australia have lost this World Test Championship final. South Africa have broken their hoodoo, and I can't believe I'm going to say this. South Africa are world champions in cricket at Test cricket. It's an unbelievable story, an unbelievable day. We're going to wrap it all up, discuss it, take in the fallout of this huge defeat for Australia, but a famous win for South Africa. So I'm Menard. You're listening to the Cricket Unfiltered podcast. Hello, everyone watching live on YouTube. And we've got a debutant. Well, there's some argument before show whether this gentleman was on the early stages of the show. But I started the podcast with a fellow called James McSmith, and this is actually James's younger brother, Ed McSmith. Ed,
better looking.
Better, younger, better looking, and an equally shrewd cricket brain. Ed, welcome to the podcast. Sorry you had to come on after such a huge defeat for Australia.
Thanks for having me, Manners. Yeah, it was it's a big loss, but at least we're in it. You got to be in it to win it, and there are lots of other nations that weren't.
That's right. Australia made it to the final, but still, this is going to take a while to sink in because South Africa, noted chokers, and they've somehow done it. They've chased down the target of 282 with 5 wickets in hand, led by Aiden Markram, who smashed 136. Temba Bavuma, the little plucky skipper, gave him really good support. He made 66. And today,
on one leg.
On one leg, exactly. And today, South Africa won the game about 2 hours and 20 minutes into the day's play. So just sort of looking at today's play before we sort of step back and look at the bigger picture, Ed, South Africa started the day needing 69. They lost 3 wickets. Bavuma went early. He was caught behind off Cummins for 66. That ended 147 runs down. Then Stubbs was bowled by Stark. And then right at the end, Markram was out for 136 to Hazelwood, whipping one in the air. But, Ed, you have to say South Africa were nervous today. Like they
very.
It took them a long time to knock off those runs.
Yeah, I feel like they were very nervous early. They were quite timid. But I thought we were as well.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think we bowled a lot better today than we did yesterday. I think we adjusted to the pitch a little more. I didn't think we bowled badly yesterday, but we seemed a bit shell-shocked as the partnership went on. And I think today they just sort of, the Australians resorted to a bit more of a defensive bowling and trying to put the pressure on, which worked. I mean, you think about it, Ed, and we've had so much fun reveling in South Africa's many, many chokes. But, all that history of losing the big moments is sitting on South Africa's shoulders today. And they weren't as positive as they were yesterday. You could tell they were just kind of sort of edging there. And it does make me think that Australia, they were only a couple of wickets away from maybe snatching this today. So great stuff for South Africa. And you can tell the nerves were there all day.
Yeah, I think they were nervous, but I think it's, then the players out there, they're not the ones that have lost all the games before. Like there's a couple here and there. And I think one of the big things is, the younger generation, they don't carry other people's baggage. They've just got such confidence. They go out there and they think they can win on any day of the week. So I think that there was some nervousness there from them, but I thought we lacked a little bit of energy this morning. I thought we would have been right up for it. I thought there would have been a lot of talk in the field. I thought there would have been a lot of bowling changes, but it felt like we were not resigned to the fact, but we were just we're going along with the script, really.
Yeah, and I thought, I thought we sort of not conceded defeat, but you could tell Australia knew it was an outside chance. Just on that, the younger generation. I mean, you talk about Aiden Markram, the hero for South Africa. Some are saying this might be the best ever Test century for South Africa, considering the context. But he won the Under-19 World Cup as South African skipper. So he's got that legacy of winning, although it's an Under-19 total. Actually,
Still.
Title, it is. He has got that pedigree, and
it's big for you at the time when you're 18.
Yeah, that's right. But look, I thought Australia were more competitive today. I thought yesterday they really struggled and they missed Smith in the field. Today they did manage to close the scoring down a bit, which was, I think, as well due to South Africa. The closer it got, the more nervous they got, and even when it was like 5 runs away, they were still poking around like there was like 50 to go.
I actually felt like the crowd was the most nervous out of the three, the teams and the crowd. But I felt like that crowd nervousness filtered into the South African nervousness.
Absolutely.
But Markram, he was pretty calm and solid. I think, when they lost Bavuma, they could have got a little bit shaky, but he again was rock solid.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Markram's the hero here because, South Africa lose Bavuma early today. So, I think they'd only added a few to their overnight total. They still needed 65 to win. So there was still a long way to go. If they'd lost Markram then you've got 2 new batters at the crease and anything can happen. But with Markram there, they always seem quite secure. Tristan Stubbs got an absolute peach from Stark bowling around the wicket. And right at the end, Markram did get out for 136. So wasn't there to hit the winning runs, but did get the moment where he could be applauded off on his own. Yeah. Kyle Verreynne was out with the scores level, but the umpire gave it not out. And Australia had used all its reviews. And it was interesting. Stark was bowling and he was pissed off. And I was thinking, they're such competitive pricks, these guys. That's why they do so well. Because Stark's thinking, that's a friggin' test wicket. I don't care if the scores are level and I'm going to lose. That's one test wicket I can have to my name. But it was given not out and they had no reviews. For Australia, the bowlers, Mitchell Stark, 3 for 66. Definitely the most dangerous. Josh Hazlewood, 1 for 58. Pat Cummins, 1 for 59. Nathan Lyon, none for 66 off his 26 overs. Webster and Head just bowled a few overs. I'm not so disappointed in the pace bowlers for Australia in that innings. I thought the conditions really died off and was much more in favour of the batters. But I did think it was surprising, like that Lyon struggled to even make chances. He didn't really even look like getting a wicket.
I agree. He beat the bat on a couple of occasions, but there wasn't really much doing. It was, as you said, good batting conditions, soft ball, beautiful weather, thanks London. So he didn't look very dangerous, but I suppose how many games has he been playing recently? He probably hasn't been out in the middle for a long time either at the moment. Like he wasn't in the IPL.
No, he hasn't been playing first-class cricket. He didn't play the end of the Shield season because they had to go to the F1. So these guys have been busy. And that was actually, Crash Craddock, the esteemed journalist, was saying that the one issue for Australia is they are coming off a cold start and they're not
very cold.
Great off a cold start. And it does even the teams up a little bit.
It does look a little bit like Travis had a couple of hot pies, though. He's definitely carrying a little bit when they cut away to him on the boundary, and I thought, oh, there you go. There's a couple of rolls there, but yeah, they were really cold, which I think also made it interesting that that the cricket everyone had been playing was in the IPL, and that's probably where the Aussie bowlers who really featured in the IPL and featured to the end of the IPL, they were in the best form.
Yeah, and Hazlewood came off a very good IPL, so did Cummins a good IPL, but so it just wasn't good. So before I really do want to sort of try and piece together what went wrong for Australia, but just before I do that, I do want to pay appropriate tribute to South Africa, because if you'd said to me, how does South Africa win this game? I'd have said a couple of things. Firstly, Kagiso Rabada, he needs to have a great game, and he did. He took 9 wickets for the game. 9 for, one of the best ever fast bowlers. He's got one of the best ever records, and they needed him to have a big game, and he did. And then you add to that, the performance of Markram, the only centurion in the game, in a famous chase to chase down 282. You need someone to step up and play an innings of their life. And actually, Markram has played well against Australia historically. I was looking at averages well over 50, and that was his 8th Test 100 in that inning. So, they got an above, someone, a performance of their life from Markram. And that's what South Africa needed if they were to topple Australia.
Definitely. And you can, obviously, they got the best of the conditions, good toss to win. But you've still got to bat well in them. And also, if you really break down that last innings, they would have made 350, maybe 400.
Well, easy. More,
easy.
Yeah.
So, and it is still a day 4 wicket, probably a bit of a day 3 wicket, considering it was probably a little bit fresh on day 1. But yeah, I think they batted. There was nervousness, but I don't think there was a lot of concern from them, genuine concern. I thought in the end, they won that quite comfortably in the final innings.
Absolutely. And brave decision from Bavuma in hindsight to win the toss and bowl. It's easy to criticize. I think a lot of people, including myself, thought it was maybe a foolhardy decision in the conditions, but it paid off because they got to bat in the best of the conditions chasing that target. So, all credit to Bavuma, and you add that to his innings. He's had quite a game, and these South Africans will be heroes. And, the crazy thing is, South Africa have no home test matches scheduled for their next summer. That's how bad their state of cricket is, that they've got no home test matches. So they've got this world champion test side who has no home summer now. It's just incredible. They've got England and Australia the year after, so they'll get a chance to see them. But that just shows you how perilous South African cricket is and why. Look, Ed, it's not easy for me to do, but I'm trying to maintain a level of class with this win. I'm not used to seeing South Africa win. I don't like it.
Yeah.
But I am trying to rise above my feelings, of my distasteful feelings. And this is important for world cricket.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I think that, in so many places it's struggling really compared to a lot of the other sports. And, South Africa as a nation, they absolutely embrace their heroes. Look what they've done to the Springboks. So, hopefully this does give it another kick into another gear, because South Africa has a really, they've got a long but a disjointed history as well. But, they're an incredibly important part of the cricketing nations, definitely.
Oh, and they were
a lot of potential, so much potential.
Well, and you talk about the history. They were really part of, the sort of the big sort of few test nations when they came back into international cricket. And India have, far superseded them and have kind of pushed them out now. And economically they struggle. So that's pushed them to the fringes. But, this is a moment for them, and, breaks a huge hoodoo. They win their first ever ICC World Cup. They did win the Champions Trophy in 1998, but, this is the trophy, a much bigger trophy. This is a World Cup of Test cricket.
And in that time where they did lose a couple, they had some incredible stars. Donald, Kloosner, they used to. I can remember watching the South Africans when I was a young kid. Just they'd come, Funny de Villiers coming in. They were a great team. And it's like anything. You want more teams that are stronger teams, so that just the whole game is stronger.
Yeah, and I think as well, I said it last night, but I think the choking tag really began in England in 1999 in that World Cup semi-final that I was with your
Gibbs.
Brother. And It's ironic that 26 years later in England, South Africa have ended that hoodoo. All right, now I want to look at the Australians, because there will be some real soul searching in the wake of this defeat. I've been saying for a while, this team's getting older and they're on the precipice of having a real generational change. And the top 3 failed. So Marnus, Khawaja and Green as a top 3 combination contributed nothing to this test match. You add in Travis Head, who did nothing.
We got almost more extras than the top 3 combined.
Yes. Yeah, the top 3 scored 49 together, and I think South Africa bowled almost that many no balls at one stage. So it was a diabolical performance. And, I think they made a big error in not putting Smith at 3. I said it in the lead up. I would have had Green in, but not at 3, at 4. And we saw Rabada dismiss Green in both innings in the same over as he's dismissed Kawaja. I mean, that's probably not happening if Smith's coming in at 3. And what I didn't understand is they were saying this is a one-off game. We're just going to pick a batting order for this game. Then don't you put Smith at 3? You say to him, okay, you're number 4. Don't worry. You'll be there for the Ashes. But just for this final, we think you need to be at 3. And we're exposed.
What Sheffield Shield team would Green bat number 3 in? Any?
Well, I don't think he has batted at 3 in a Shield, but he does bat a lot at 4, and he's done well at 4 for Australia. He made a big 100, so it's only one spot higher.
How long ago? When was that?
Well, that's the thing, and I just think for this final, Smith is a much more known commodity at number 3. I mean, before Marnus came along, he batted at 3 and was averaging 60 or so in Test cricket. So Green didn't work at 3, and then you've got. Oh, and you sent me some horrendous message. I almost cancelled this. You said to me you'd have played Mitchell Marsh ahead of Cameron Green.
Yes, I'm not saying I'm not saying that I would have played Mitchell Marsh, but I think if those were the two cards on the table, because Marsh had a good IPL.
Yeah, I know. But, Green's got 300s in county cricket. I just don't think he's a number 3, maybe in this game.
I'll give you my thinking around that matters. So Kawaja, Marnus, and Green, they were all like L-platers at a roundabout. They just don't know when to go. They don't know when to go. And I think the problem is you've got 3 of the same type of players who are all just sort of searching for that ball. Whereas if they played Sam, at least Sam's not going to die trying, right? He's going to have a go at it, and he's either you're going to get out, which they did anyway, or he's going to turn it, turn the game. So
absolutely, and I agree with you.
Intent.
I was worried about that, and that's why I thought Inglis should have been an option. He scored a Test 100 2 games ago. Yep. I know he's never opened, and it's a bit hypocritical because I've said they should be maybe picking a bit more known commodities in positions. But for this game, I wouldn't have minded Inglis opening the batting with Kawaja, just someone to be aggressive. So here are the question marks now, Ed.
Someone to be aggressive.
Kawaja's 38, and I think most experts now accept that Kawaja is an experienced player and can score runs, but against fast bowling, when it gets above that sort of 140 kilometers an hour, he's just too old and too slow. And it's not just Bumrah. They said, he got Bumrah last year, but in this game against Rabada, he was jumping around, hopping around. He was jumping around the way we'd jump around trying to face these guys. So
anything between the Tropic of Capricorn and Cancer, he's done.
Yeah, and the thing is, I don't think the Australian selectors are gutsy enough to say to him, we're going to drop you, because that's what they need to do. They need to go, all right, this is too big a risk for the Ashes. Because what if you say to Kawaja, just get through the Ashes and then you can retire? What if he has a stinker like he did last summer and doesn't score any runs? Then we're carrying him. So if you want to be aggressive and make a tough decision, you've got to really say, for this West Indies tour, maybe Usman's going to have to sit on the bench and we're going to play some new batters at the top. Constas, I mean, the funny thing is, Ed, they picked him in Boxing Day in the biggest Test match. And then for this match at Lords, they really could have used someone to take on the bowling.
And also they picked him in the biggest Test match of the year when we were behind. And he got on the front foot and turned the series for us. And I like his enthusiasm. He's out there. He brings energy. And, as he said, he has intent, but aggression. You've got to have at least one player that's got aggression. They're all just sitting. The top 3 are just so far out of form that they're not hoping that they get a nick, but that's about all they're hoping for almost. They're not getting in the middle of the bat.
But now we're in a really fucked situation. We're heading into the Ashes. We've got 3 tests left. We actually don't know who our top 3 are at all. So if they say Smith is 4, Head is 5, and that's not changing, and then you probably got Webster at 6, maybe Green, he could go at 6 because he'll be bowling. Yep. But then who is your top 3? I don't think Marnus can open in the Ashes. He needs to have a spell. Usman's on the way out. Green looks a little
too green
for number 3. So we've got a lot of questions, and I'll add there was an update on Steve Smith today. He's done an injury to a compound dislocation of his little finger. Horrible footage yesterday when it was torn out. So it's going to take 2 weeks to heal. Then going to be in a splint for 8 weeks. So I would say he's going to miss.
He should He should just do what Angus Crichton did, the Roosters second row. Just get it cut off. Just cut it off, and you'll be there next week. Colin Smith.
It's yeah, I knew you'd get the Roosters in somewhere. That's
Only
only though.
It's one
I reckon
digit.
if it was like an Ashes series next week, maybe he would. But
Maybe,
I think
yeah.
Smith's going to rest up for the West Indies Test series now.
He should.
There's no point risking it. Come back for the Ashes, which means Australia have got an opportunity to look at some players in the top order, like McSweeney, like Inglis, maybe a Curtis Patterson, because we need a top 3 for the Ashes. Because we literally don't have one. I'm actually thinking for the Ashes, you'd probably want Cameron Green at 6. Webster, you probably push out because just Green's a better bowler and a better batter than Webster.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And then you'd have a whole new top 3 of somebody. And that's the thing about Marnus. Like, I'd almost persist with Marnus more than Usman because at least Marnus is only early 30s. Usman's done and dusted.
That's a fair comment. Yeah. If you had to pick between them, you'd probably pick Marnus. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's where I think the game went wrong for Australia. We just we took in to a grand final an untried batting lineup, and it was exposed. And it was always a gamble because we never used this combination in the World Test Championships cycle. I mean, can you imagine that? Imagine your Roosters make it to the grand final, and the coach just picks a whole new team.
Maybe if it's Smith who hasn't played in a while and he's available, in you come. But not Green. Like, he is a rookie. He is a rookie, really. And I think
I had him at 4 or 5.
A bit of a sliding doors moment in that, Australia's dominance has come to an end, really. Look, they've won everything else, and congratulations, South Africa was quite dominant or quite convincing. But then also, it is a personnel sliding doors moment. And I think the Australian selectors got a little too cutesy and they didn't want to make a hard decision, and that they were probably not proactive enough. So they need to be really proactive on the tour of the West Indies to make sure they've nailed it down for the Ashes. Otherwise, there's going to be 50,000 bloody screaming Poms at every single one of our grounds, drinking all our beer, taking all our wickets.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. And, we've got to find 2 new openers. I've got a lot of messages from people that saying they've just given Marnus way too long, and this problem should have been solved months ago. I'm not so sure, but this is a huge wake-up call. You add to the top 3 failing. Travis Head didn't have a good game, and he's been in the IPL smacking a few. And look, Travis Head is a charming player. He comes off, he's a match winner, he fails, and you're wondering where was he this game. But Australia also, I don't think they were too smart. On that second afternoon where we collapsed, they just needed to get through to day 3, and conditions to bat were so much easier. And they were outplayed, but I also think, it just wasn't
We're
smart.
impatient. There were some bad shots, and we're impatient. And I think, coming to Head, he can set the world on fire, but then he can just not be there as well. And I think, he's got a very relaxed attitude, which everyone loves. And I don't know. I think maybe sometimes it needs to be a little bit more serious.
Yeah, and then, I mean, Australia, you said it. I mean, we held until now. We held every pretty much trophy apart from the T20 World Cup that India holds. So it was a very proud record. But this is the end of that. And it's interesting, this World Test Championship. There's kind of been 3 upset winners. New Zealand beat India in the first final. In the last final, Australia beat India when India probably were the best Test side for the preceding 2 years. And then in this final, South Africa have got the upset. And so, I think, lots of question marks over the Australian side now. Those 3 Test matches in the West Indies will be fascinating about who can put a marker down and make it in that top 3. I mean, who are you backing from here, Ed, to make it to the Ashes?
I think Constance has to be there.
Yeah.
I think he has to. I think, you want the other team to be not intimidated, but just to be wary of someone. And I think that he does that. I don't think, honestly, mate, I could go down the oval here at Noosa and I'd probably back myself to get out Marnus once or twice, right? But if I went down there with Sam, I'd have to have 300 balls because he'd hit him into the ocean, right? So, and maybe I'd pick him up once or twice, right? Whatever. But he'd probably smack me for 300 as well. I think I just don't understand. they've been so they're kind of gaslighting him a little bit. They bring him in, they take him off, and then they take him to Sri Lanka, and then back you go, and you got something to learn. But what are you really learning if you're not out in
Well,
the middle?
also,
I don't know. I haven't liked
also,
the
what are the
treatment of him.
selectors doing? They're picking a new opener for every series. Constance,
Exactly.
McSweeney, Head's done it. Smith did it. Like, they've just got to pick and stick. And I think that's
It's
probably
like Billy Slater's a selector.
No, what do I don't know what you're talking about, but the whole thing is the main thing is that we were found out in this test match, and there'll be big changes. So look, that's our wrap of the final day. South Africa.
Quick question:
Well,
what's your top 5, top 6 for the Ashes? What's your batting lineup for the Ashes?
Well, seeing how things go in the West Indies, I mean, I think they're going to stick with Khawaja, but I'd like to see them go funky and get Constance in there. I think Smith's not going to play in the West Indies, so I'd like to see McSweeney back in the top of the order, because I think he showed signs of being an organised test player. So McSweeney and Constance could be a good top order in the Ashes. And then, I think Green's probably going to sit at number 6 for the Ashes, and it's just going to be a little bit too much to ask Green to bat at 3 in the Ashes. And if Smith's not going to do it, then I think Green will slot in at 6, and you've got Head, Smith.
Because also you've got day-nighters in Brisbane, so that'll probably nip around a lot. It'll be really, really humid, probably pretty overcast in December in Brisbane. So, but I've got another question for you. Do you play all the same lineup in the Windies, or do you do a bit of round robin and give some people a try?
It's interesting. I think because Smith's out, that's opened up a spot. I see a comment here from TechArc, English should be in the team. The problem with English is, again, he's like all the others. He's a middle order player. He's not really a top order player against the red ball. So, Australia have a lot of issues to sort out. I've got a question for you. This is the 3rd iteration of the World Test Championship. It's not a perfect system. Not every team plays the same number of games, but I don't think it really matters, because knockout test cricket, where everything is on the line for one test match, I think it works. I think it is a very good showpiece event to round out a cycle. So I think, let's keep it up.
Yeah, I agree. I think the only other option is you've got to play 3, and then you've got to have 1 home, 1 away, 1 neutral, and then that's just logistically such a problem. So, yeah.
And I think there was news today that it's locked in the next 3 World Test Championship finals are going to be at Lords. That's a good neutral venue.
See there?
Because England are never going to be in the final, so you don't have to worry about anyone having.
And Australia will be, so they'll have someone to support against us.
Yeah, exactly. All right, well, thanks for joining me on Cricket Unfiltered. Good run.
Also, just shout out to Daniel Chick, who's also had his pinky cut off. Daniel Chick. Congratulations. Thanks, NC6.
Oh, I hope Smith doesn't have his finger cut off. But I think Pat Cummins has half a finger. His sister slammed his finger in a door once, and he's got one of his fingers I think it's anyway. One of them is half there, and so they say, like, when he grips the ball, you can sort of see it.
Okay.
Anyway, that's it for Cricket Unfiltered. Thanks for tuning in. South Africa World Test Champions. I can't believe I am saying it. Just stunning stuff, but congratulations to them. And look, I'll be back during the week to record a full episode of Cricket Unfiltered. Ed, thanks for jumping on. Great to have you.
Thanks, man. Congrats, South Africa. Hate to say it, but thanks.